afternoon, guys. Welcome back to the channel. We've got the big girl herself out. We've got Miss Sienna out. There's lots of flies out today. We are doing an in-hand dressage session, so doing dressage movements but in hand, aren't we? And I have been loving doing this with her. I think it helps create a really good bond with your horse. It's a really nice way to teach them natural work. Doing it from the ground means that you can really make sure that they use their back end better. Because when you're sat on board and you're trying to ride like a leg yield or a shouldering or something like that, you don't always get the angle you're necessarily... What you doing? You don't always get the angle you're necessarily looking for, whereas if you're working from the ground, you can really help your horse create the right shape, which is what I love so much about it. First up, she's wearing boots. Excuse, just picked her feet up. She's wearing boots not because she needs them on, but she's decided she doesn't like wearing boots recently, and so now I'm trying to make sure that every time she does a session, she has them on, just because she's being very dramatic about having them on. Like, she has her back feet up in the air when you're putting them on. She's just being a bit OTT about it all, so for that reason she's wearing boots a bit more often at the moment. I've got the worst, mankiest joppers on, and literally my jods didn't dry over the weekend, and so I had to dig deep in the cupboards to find a pair to wear today, and it turned out to be kind of like a half waterproof old pair that are really big and spend most of the time hanging down by my knees, so just to be aware, I know my joppers are really baggy and most unattractive. We're just going to have to roll with it. We're just rolling with it. So I'm working Sienna with the bridle on today and the rein. Sometimes I do it with just a head collar on, but to give me more feel down the rein, to help her with her contact. And because we're hopefully going to be getting back on board soon, it's quite useful to do it with the bridle on. Good morning, guys. I wanted to pop on quickly because I was editing my vlog last night and I realised I'm just missing a little bit of information on it. First up, like a little disclaimer, I don't want to ever come across in this video like I know what I'm talking about. I'm very much in the early stages of learning about in-hand dressage. I've always done in-hand groundwork with my horses, but not teaching them dressage movements or lateral work and so on from the ground. I've never really done that with them before, but I am seeing the benefits from it and thinking, why did I not do this sooner? And just great for their suppleness, great for building top line and really engaging the hindquarters. That's definitely something that is helping Sienna. By being on the ground, I've kind of really noticed how kind of weak her back end is. Like, she just isn't particularly sharp, she doesn't have huge amounts of energy, and so from the ground I can just remind her quite regularly, come on, be a little bit more active, kind of keep the power coming. So that's been very helpful. Also, it's such a wonderful way to teach your horse lateral work. This is one of the things I kind of regret not knowing sooner, is that it's so much simpler to teach your horse from the ground and then do it ridden. Because if you think about it, when you're riding, your horse has to contend with your leg aids, your seat aids, your hands, your body position, how you as a rider are riding at that point, the saddle obstructing. When you teach them from the ground, really it's just your hands on the reins or maybe on a rope attached to your cavesson and a dressage whip, and that's it. And so for a horse, it's so much easier for them to move their body into the position that you're trying to ask of them. And I just think, for me anyway, it makes sense to teach them that way first and then do it ridden. I'm very interested to see how Sienna finds it when we do get back to riding her. The shoulder and the leg yield, does she find it better because of being taught from the ground now? So there's just lots of positives to it. Also, I think it gives your horse a lot of confidence when you're working alongside them. I mean, I really love doing it with Sienna. I've really got a new passion, it would seem. Anyway, I just wanted to mention those few bits before we get into the video, so I hope you enjoy.
So this is how a typical in-hand dressage training session has looked for Sienna and I in the past few weeks. Her in a very sort of long and low, stretched out, relaxed frame. Me holding the inside rein just to help with a little bit of direction. And then with my other hand holding the dressage whip to try and help create a little bit of bend through her body. So pointing towards her rib cage and her stomach area. And this has served us really well. And this has been great for working over the poles and helping her relax and stretch. However, if we want to teach her more lateral work and dressage movements, then we're going to need to create a little bit more connection and collection with the way she's going, and that means me changing my positioning to help with that. So I changed my position by being more my shoulder next to her shoulder, so working a lot closer to her. I've taken the outside rein over her neck onto the other side, and I place my right hand sort of around about by her mane, and then with my left hand I put it on the inside rein. And you can kind of experiment with the positioning of your hands. Some people like it quite close to the bit. I preferred it a little bit further back, but you can instantly see that she's got so much more shape and bend over her back and her neck. She instantly looks that little bit more connected and more up together. Now obviously by having hold of the outside rein, you keep hold of the outside shoulder, so it's much harder for the horse to drift or to fall out of that shoulder. And again, that helps keep this much more roundness over the back and the neck. With my dressage whip, I had it in my left hand, and I had it sort of just laying across the side of her body, sort of like where the dressage saddle would go back towards her hindquarters. And because of this, they tend to be so much more reactive. Like the lightest of touches would get quite a reaction from Sienna, and that was something I was really pleased about, because I mentioned she's a little bit quiet behind, you know, her hindquarters lack a little bit of energy and lack a bit of power, so it was nice to be able to give her those little tickles just to remind her to keep a bit of oomph in the hind end. So we then moved on to some lateral work. So this was our attempt at shouldering. It took a little bit of explaining to her to get her to understand, and initially she was quite fidgety in her head and her tail swishing a little bit, because you know what, she finds it quite hard. This kind of positioning is forcing her to use her hindquarters, so obviously she was a little bit like, oh, not sure about it. But I think the importance is to very gently and very quietly just try to help your horse get into the right shape. Lots of rewarding them, telling them that they're doing a really good job, and just sort of playing around with the positioning to try and help them get it. But I think she gets better and better throughout the shouldering work, and especially this last little piece here, I think her shaping is getting a lot better by this point. So I was really pleased with her and thought she was doing a really good job. Really important to take lots of breaks with them. This is hard work, especially if this isn't something your horse is used to doing a lot of. So lots of chances for them to really stretch out, take their head and neck out, and just relax before picking it back up again. You can see here we've now moved on to the leg yield, and I was really pleased with how she found this. This is something Sienna has always struggled with leg yield. Her hindquarters have always been left in another county, and for me, being on the ground, I could really help her keep the hindquarters moving over, keep the activity in them. And I especially love this little last piece now. She ends up just going into a bit of a jog, but the steps she's doing are really good and really clean, and she's doing some really good crossing over. So really enjoyed watching her move like this from the ground and sort of really seeing her start to make the right shape. And then who would have ever thought that Sienna could trot while I walked beside her. Here I can definitely start to see her engage her core. Lots of transitions can be done while going into walk and back into trot and down, and I found this was really good. A few little jog trot steps back to walk again. Even found I could start to stretch her. Who would have thought that was possible? So trying to show her that she could take her head and neck out, take the nose out, because again, really good for her back. She didn't find it so easy on the right rein when I did it. The right rein is her harder rein, and she certainly didn't find stretching was so possible. But what I loved seeing throughout is how much better her halts were becoming. And to me, this is a strong indication that she is starting to use her hindquarters, because if she's halting square and with her hindquarters under her, that must mean she's using them more. So, and honestly, she was throwing out these square halts left, right and centre. I was so thrilled. We did a little bit of turn on the forehand. She was a little bit falling through the front shoulder for this. I think because of all the other work we'd done earlier, she had just sort of slightly gone backwards on the turn on the forehand, but that was fine. It's still really important to do these kind of exercises. And then we finished off with a little bit of rein back. And I feel she's looking good. I think she's starting to really muscle up around her body. I think this is the best I've seen her yet. Some nice gentle steps backwards with so little pressure. Absolutely thrilled with her. And like I say, this was the first sort of proper kind of in-hand session in this shape, or I should say not shape, but the way I was working with her. There is so much to look forward to as well with doing sort of dressage in hand. So as Sienna gets stronger, develops more, and further down the line, hopefully we can teach her travers and half pass, and you never know, one day maybe piaffe, passage, that kind of thing. But also there's all the in-between bits, you know, making her balance and her rhythm better, helping her to become more softer over the back, adding lots of transitions in, working on the trot, you know, having a steadier trot and maybe then a trot with more power. And there is just so much to learn through this. So I'm very excited to see how far we go with it all.